So I guess we're live. What's going on, everyone?
Central for all your draft needs.
They have a 3-down linebacker.
The 49ers were thinking.
All your latest football content, eastwestfootballnetwork.com is going to be the place to go.
Let's talk some football with you real quick.
Welcome to this edition of the Zero Blitz draft coverage. I'm Jerry Martinez. Along with me is Walter Stringer, our senior draft analyst at the East West Football Network. And we also have Stephen Patrick along with us, joining us. He's also with the East West Football Network. He is an actual beat writer for the entire division, and that is the AFC North. So welcome, Stephen.
Hey, thank you for having me, my good man. How are you?
Good, man. Good. We have an interesting topic here, man. Normally we stick to the draft, but we're gonna have a little flashback here. We're gonna go back to the 2007 draft class, and man, we got some big names in that class. But we're gonna highlight. We're gonna put the spotlight on one of the most well-known names, and I'm gonna ask you guys this question: who had the better career? And I'm talking about the number 2 pick, Calvin Johnson, and the number 3 pick, Joe Thomas. Walter, how about you get me going? Who's better?
No problem,
Who
Jerry.
had a better career?
In my estimation, I would give it to Joe. And I know that's kind of questionable coming from a guy who lives in Detroit and watched every single snap of Calvin's career. But I have a few reasons for believing it. First of all, I think if you look at it, Joe, if you look at the specifics of Joe's statistics and how vital they are to his position, Joe was, to me, unquestionably the best left tackle of his generation. Out of 167 games played, he started all 167 of them. He played and started in 35 more games than Calvin Johnson. In the 11 seasons he played in the league, just going down the list, He had 17 holding penalties, 41 false starts. He had 61 total penalties in 11 years. He was a 10-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first-team All-Pro. And one number that really stands out, he had 6,680 pass block attempts. About how many sacks you think he gave up? 6,680 pass block attempts.
I would have to say he's probably in the 50s.
30.
30.
The man gave up 30 sacks in 11 seasons.
Wow. That's insane.
And another thing that's crazy, he played 10,363 straight snaps. That's an all-time record since they started recording snaps in 1999.
That's just
so
insane.
While I believe Calvin had a bigger impact, I think Joe's steadiness of his career and that rock solidness he provided on the left side of that offensive line for the Browns for 21 consecutive, well, not 21 consecutive years, but 21 different quarterbacks. To me, I believe Joe had a stronger career.
Steven, let's turn it over to you. What do you who do you say had a better career, Calvin Johnson or Joe Thomas?
This is easy for me. Megatron.
Oh,
the wide receiver. This is easy for me. So,
yeah.
Yes, Joe Thomas, mainly because the receiver is a dependent position. I have to depend on the quarterback. With Joe Thomas, he just had to depend on his skills, who was in front of him to block. So I just give the edge to Calvin Johnson. We look at his year-to-year stats, 81 catches, 1,291 yards, 9 touchdowns. You break that year by year, that's comparable to Jerry Rice. That's actually better than Randy Moss. That's actually better than Terrell Owens. Some of the greatest wide receivers to ever play the game. He has better numbers. 6 Pro Bowls, close to 2,000 receiving yards in the year of 2012. He was targeted 202 times. 204 times. So this just shows you his ability and how he was the most dependent offensive player for that team. And one more thing too, I kind of feel like he kind of ushered in the wide receiver kind of tight end combination, big body receivers that would play tight end maybe in a past decade, but he brought in that style of play, and now we have
Julio Jones.
Julio Jones, Mike Evans, Mike Williams, big
Mike
body
Thomas.
receivers. I'm sorry, Mike Thomas. Big body receivers who really probably should play tight end, but they're in the wide receiver because of how Calvin Johnson produced at that position. So with me, I'm going with Megatron. He changed the game. He made you double, triple team him almost every single play. Route tree, he can run all the routes for you. 3rd down and 5, he's going to get you 3rd and 7. If you need a big play downfield, he can high point the ball better than anybody. And then he just had a little bit more success than Joe Thomas did, even though I know it's a team game, but yet again, he still had a little bit more success. He did get to the playoffs before. So I'm just going to give it to Calvin Johnson. I'm going to give it to him also because he's in rare names with Jerry Rice, I said, Terrell Owens, and other Hall of Fame receivers. Didn't do it as long as them, but just his impact on the game, I feel like is still being felt to this day.
Yeah, I could see that definitely. I mean, he even got the name Megatron, right? That's high praise. I mean, that's coming from players within the league that are calling that teammates. Let me ask you. I'm going to ask you both the same question. But first, let me ask: do you feel that where they were drafted? Do you feel that that it's exactly right, or do you think that the Browns should have, or do you think if the Lions would have drafted Joe Thomas ahead and maybe the Browns select Adrian Peterson, right? Because Adrian Peterson is a part of that draft class. Do you think that would have changed the entire landscape, or do you think where they were drafted there, that's perfect?
Go ahead, Walter.
Oh, yeah. Well, me personally, we had this discussion before. I personally believe that, well, there's no guarantee if the Lions would have taken Adrian Peterson at number 2 that they would have gotten Matthew Stafford 2 years later. But I always did say that I believe Stafford would have won more games with Adrian Peterson than he did with Calvin Johnson. But going back to what you're saying, I want to touch on something that Steve did comment on. And I do think that while Calvin did get to the playoffs 3 times, in his career, he only won 5 more games than Joe Thomas. That was 53-48. And he had, Stafford for 7 seasons. And Joe Thomas had, a revolving door at quarterback pretty much every year. So for him to have, and if you think about it, as bad as the Lions have been, Calvin still had a better team around him for his career than Joe Thomas did.
Well,
Fair point.
yeah.
Very fair point. Very fair point. But I just feel like, let's just say the Browns picked up Calvin Johnson. I still feel like Calvin Johnson would have did Megatron-like things no matter where he was picked. It was just, just a freak of nature.
Oh, yeah,
but
cool.
with Joe Thomas, with Joe Thomas protecting those quarterbacks, like you said, even though he did his job, those quarterbacks couldn't do their job. And just my thing is, Calvin Johnson, even when the quarterbacks couldn't do their job, he was still able to do his job.
Yeah.
He still, made those quarterbacks better, while Joe Thomas couldn't make his quarterbacks better, even with, more protection, better protection, and having them have more time in the pocket to do what they're supposed to do. And they still couldn't do it with one of the best, as you said, generational left tackles to ever play this game, and one of the best of his generation.
Yeah.
I would like to ask both of you. So do you think, obviously these two players changed that position that they played. I think you kind of alluded to it earlier, right? You got the Julio Jones, the Mike Evans, the Mike Thomases of the world. So with that being said, Joe Thomas, right? That's a very, very rare breed, right? He's exactly what you'd want in a left tackle, somebody that can protect the blind side for 10 plus years. So in this year's upcoming draft, have you guys noticed anything as far as any players that maybe are following in the same footsteps of these two players that can maybe help give some kind of hope, right? That there's another Joe Thomas or another Calvin Johnson out there?
Ooh, that's rare. These are rare players. These are once in a lifetime, once generational players. I feel like we see another Calvin Johnson in the league right now which is Julio Jones. But outside of Julio, just recently coming in, we can't really see anybody that has the skill set, the speed, just the power, the muscles, just everything that goes into being a football player and can high point the ball. You know, just having at the top of the game the best physical skills. I just can't see it right now with any upcoming wide receivers coming into the league or that'll be entering the league through the draft.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Walter?
gonna have to agree with Steven. None of these guys to me are generational guys. You went from Jerry to Randy to Calvin to Julio / AJ. You know, you gotta throw AJ in there. When AJ was healthy, AJ was.
Oh yeah, AJ Green. He was
mini-time.
he was one of them too. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but aside from that, like collegiate, no. Now, offensive tackle wise,
What about that Oregon?
yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was about to say that Penny Sewell. No, Sewell he's being hyped up, you know, as the next great guy. It's possible. He may get a chance to play this season. He may not. I have some concerns about him too, as far as his lower body, and I think he plays too high. But all in all, I think he has the skill set to be that next guy. He has feet like nobody else I've seen. He moves kind of like a power forward. He gets out and he pushes his blocks. He pushes those defensive tackles, those defensive ends back into that second level of defense. And you don't really see that too often from collegiate offensive tackles anymore. So I think Sewell he's the closest. But as far as the wide receiver position this year, I don't see anybody anywhere near the same stratosphere as Calvin Johnson.
Okay, what about CeeDee Lamb or let's say Jerry Jeudy?
No.
Great receivers, but
No.
like I said, going back to just the physical aspects of Calvin and Julio and these big body receivers and just the way that they can cut in and out of routes, their footwork, their speed.
Yeah.
Like you said, their speed for their body size, and they should not be as fast as they are for their body size. It's just, genetic. It's just genetically impossible.
Yeah.
But with them, it's possible.
I used to tell people for years that Julio was the result of, for lack of a better comparison, if Calvin Johnson and Terrell Owens had a football player. It would be Julio Jones.
Well, the reason why I ask, right? I know that we're talking about specimens, right? Because I mean, both of them are above 6'3". I think Julio's 6'3" and Calvin 6'4", pushing 6'5", right?
6'5".
Both of them ran sub 4.4s, and I mean that's
4.35.
I mean that's blazing speeds. So I mean, when you stop and you look at it, but I was just saying overall, I think I've seen some uniqueness in some of these players. I'm not saying that CeeDee Lamb is that, but I see a lot of Julio's game and CeeDee Lamb's game. I can't say that he has the same hops, like vertical, but the tenacity, the way he plays, and he's a great finisher. So I do think that if anything, we're talking about, like you said, two generational players. Hopefully, it's one of those things that, these kids, hopefully they can see these players that we got to see, and hopefully they can pick up inspiration and they can, maybe one day try to aspire to be the next Calvin Johnson, right? If they're given, those measurements, of course. But, overall, who would you say is your favorite player in the 2007 draft?
Regardless of position?
Regardless of position.
We said in which draft?
This one, the 2007 draft.
The 2007 draft?
Yeah. Because we have Adrian. We have Adrian Peterson.
Calvin. Yeah, Calvin was. AP was my favorite player at Oklahoma. I thought AP was from Mars when he showed up at Oklahoma.
Speaking of physical freaks, Adrian's a physical freak.
He is.
Yeah. He's not supposed to be that bulky. He's not supposed to be that fast. He's not supposed to be that powerful. But even as a freshman, you saw that he had Hall of Fame potential.
Yeah.
Steven, he looked like a 5-year veteran as a freshman.
Yeah.
He did. He did. One of the first he he was an absolute beast. And as a freshman, got Heisman Trophy consideration. So it just shows you how he came on the scene and just tore the Big 12 to pieces.
He could. I honestly think that he could have made the transition from college to the pros and after his freshman year. I really do think that he's that kind of talent.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
Jerry.
Yeah. So coming out of the 2007 draft, that would be my favorite player is Adrian Peterson. And he has, as we go back and forth with Joe Thomas and Calvin Johnson, one thing with Adrian Peterson, we don't have to worry about is if he's a bona fide Hall of Famer. We know he is. While with Joe Thomas and Calvin Johnson, it's up in the air because even though they had high levels of play, that team success is what is missing. And the careers were short, compared to Adrian Peterson, who's had over 10 years in the league, who doesn't want to slow down at all right now, and is still being productive. So that's my favorite player and a future first ballot Hall of Famer. While I think Calvin and Joe will eventually get in, I feel like it's going to take them some time.
what were you gonna say, Walter?
I want to ask you a quick question about Calvin.
Yes, sir.
Does it bother you a little bit when you reflect on Calvin's career, like even going back to college, that he just never really won much? Like he didn't win at Georgia Tech either. And I understand that. Who was the quarterback? The last name Ball. Yeah,
Man.
I just feel that, and I tell people when Calvin Johnson first landed in the NFL, it was the equivalent to a meteor hitting Earth. And I just feel like somebody with that ability, why didn't he win more?
Yeah, you're saying
Anyway.
he should have been the hump.
It's not his fault.
He should have been able to help it get over the hump. But I will tell you this: if anything, I think that these two are very, very good because they both had to go through an 0-16.
Yeah.
0-16, right? Dreadful seasons, and I think after that, that's when Joe Thomas retired. Calvin Johnson had to go through that as well, So I think that doesn't bother me. I think if anything, as a fan, I think him walking away from the game on his terms, that was kind of more of a heartbreak, if anything, to like me personally, like just because he was such a fun player. I think both of you alluded to it first. I mean, he had to be. I mean, there's games where he had to be triple team, and he still came down with the ball, for a touchdown. One of his most notable catches was the three Dallas Cowboys on his back while he's catching the ball right there in the back of the end zone. So
he's relentless when it comes to high pointing. When he wants that ball, nobody's taking it from him. That's his ball.
Yeah. So, but I'm not gonna knock him for the lack of a championship win. I think that like you said, both these players did the most that they could, and they came in and they showed up every single game and they brought it.
And you got to take into consideration, the divisions they played in. Calvin Johnson, was you going to beat, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, and Brett Favre wasn't there yet, but Aaron Rodgers, when he was getting rolling in his prime, Joe Thomas, was you?
And Ben Roethlisberger with the Steelers, yeah.
And Big Ben, the Ravens with Harbaugh. Was you really going to be able to compete with them? Going back to Joe Thomas and the Browns, that's when the Bengals were rolling. That's when that's when the Bengals was rolling, and also like you said, Big Ben and the Ravens, and then in the other division for Calvin, like I said, Green Bay, Minnesota, the Chicago Bears had a few good years as well. So you're looking at the divisions, and it was really no way that they were going to move up from being bottom feeders.
I think if we could just all sum it up and just everything that we just kind of basically broke down for our audience, it just shows you the importance of having a franchise quarterback, right? Because I think that if I don't want to take anything away from Stafford. I'm a big Matt Stafford fan. However, I think that there's just something about Stafford that he's a little bit of a magic man. Doesn't really doesn't look like he's refined. He doesn't put too much attention to his footwork and whatnot, and he will take those big mistakes. And I think that sometimes those big mistakes will come back and haunt you. The thing with the Browns, they could never find a franchise quarterback. Hopefully, they found it in Baker, and we'll see what's next for the Detroit Lions. So
But
I think
one more comment, Jerry. I
what's
did
that?
want to say, because Steven mentioned about the Hall of Fame. Now, I do believe that the NFL Hall of Fame tends to be more lenient towards offensive linemen than they are towards wide receivers. For whatever reason
Oh
it
yeah,
is,
that's true.
they'll
That is
keep
true.
wide receivers out.
Wide receivers
but
have to
they'll
wait.
put the offensive linemen in.
Yeah.
So I think when they look at Joe Thomas, they're going to say, oh, he was the lunch pail guy. He never complained. He put his head down, grinded it out. He never missed a start, never missed a snap. Joe, I'm pretty sure Joe probably will be a first ballot. But when it comes to Calvin's exit here rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Like, not me personally. I know exactly what happened, and that right ring finger of his was a huge reason for why he retired. It first got screwed up in 2013. He had the surgery in 2014. It's 2020 now, and the man says it still gives him pain every day when he gets up. See, he said it got to a point where he couldn't catch a football anymore. So what you expect the guy to do?
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, but just one more thing as well. Going back to the 2007 draft, and I just want to give some shine to some other players. Speaking of, our favorite players, Patrick Willis, Darrell Revis.
Oh yeah.
Nobody wanted to go to Revis Island for about a strong 6 to 7 years.
Calvin didn't want to go.
You wanted to fly over there. You did not want a vacation there. And just shout out to Marshall Yonda as well. Speaking of linemen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
No,
yeah.
Yeah, I think that the just talking about the 2007 draft, I mean it could be easily one of the top drafts that we've seen in a long time.
All right.
I mean there's some drafts where almost every NFL team whiffed on their first pick overall. But I think the 2007 draft was a great draft class. But that's gonna do it for us on today's coverage of the Zero Blitz draft coverage. Tune in next time. We will have a different segment for you. Of course, we ask you to subscribe and hit the like button. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Peace.